Hello, fans. I am here on Skype with Kelly Campagna. She is one of the writers for the Daily Wire, and she's here joining us today.
Actually, I'm a social media editor,
Oh, the
not
social
not a
media.
writer.
That's right, social
Just
media
yeah,
editor for the Daily Wire.
yeah.
She and I have I've actually been following her blog and YouTube channel for a very long time. She's at WarriorWoman91. Today we have an exclusive. She's going to explain where Warrior Woman 91 came from. I think.
Uh,
We didn't talk about that pre, so she might not, but
well, I'll absolutely tell you where WarriorWoman91 came from.
nice.
Well, the Twitter site started in 2010, but Warrior Woman is the when you translate Kelly, it's Celtic for warrior in the male declension and Warrior Woman in the female declension. So that's where that
Oh,
comes from. And 91 obviously is my birth year. So,
nice.
but the Twitter site started because it was back in 2010. There was some sort of like a tsunami or something happening in, I think it was in Hawaii or something. There was something going on where the news reporters were too scared to go to the site to report about what was going on.
Oh wow.
And they were literally reading Twitter. They were reading tweets from people who actually lived where the whatever natural disaster was happening. They were reading Twitter to find out the news to report it on the TV. And so I was like, I'm going to join Twitter. I might actually make something of myself since the news reporters are obviously getting their news from it. So that's why I joined Twitter.
Oh, nice. I actually joined Twitter for one reason only. When I started my blog and it started to develop, I had read somewhere that Twitter was great for bloggers, and that's why I joined Twitter. And I always, my dad's a pastor, and so I would always, when people would say, "Hey Jacob, are you on Twitter?" I'm like, if you if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's fine. But just so you know, I am super political on Twitter. So if you want to get mad, if you want to keep our friendship, don't follow me unless you agree
Right.
with me.
Exactly.
But anyway, I was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the chaos around Beauty and the Beast. We
Mm-hmm.
had they had an exclusively gay moment, and
Mm-hmm.
you actually went and watched the movie. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you crossed that line. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. I know. I can't believe
So,
it.
but tell us about, give us your impression of the gay moment and also the the pre-movie fallout. Didn't even happen after the movie. The pre-movie fallout.
Yeah, why don't I just start with the pre-movie Fallout first?
Absolutely.
I was seeing people like canceling their trips to Disney World. There was one lady in the article that you probably read that I wrote was largely responding to this lady who was saying, I'm canceling my $6,000 trip. Florida woman, I'm canceling my $6,000 trip to Disney World over this. And she literally had a picture of her daughter in an Elsa dress. And I thought, how much more hypocritical can you be
Hmm.
to be boycotting Beauty and the Beast over a so-called exclusively gay moment? And you have the gay metaphor, which was Elsa from Frozen,
Right.
uh, and your daughter is wearing the dress from Frozen. So that was kind of where a lot of where that article came from. There's other people that I know personally that were boycotting it for other reasons, and I don't have a problem with people who said, I don't feel comfortable with going to this movie. I just think I should sit this one out. That was fine with me. But the people that were like the pitchforks and the torches, just like the scene from the original animated version, going out, we gotta burn this movie, we gotta
Hmm.
boycott Disney, we gotta take a stand. They have drawn a line that we just cannot cross. And I'm like,
Well,
stop. Are there not more important things for Christians to be upset about than the so-called gay moment, which,
I
believe it
know.
or not, was not there?
And which exactly what you said, like Tangled, which don't tell my wife I'm talking about Tangled. It's her absolute favorite Disney movie, but Tangled
Mm.
had a gun control narrative to it. I thought with the
Oh,
swords,
really? Uh,
because at the end, they don't they use the pot and the pan to fight the sword, and
oh,
then the
uh,
horse when he becomes the head of the military gives all the soldiers pots. And I was like,
uh,
oh, that's such a gun control narrative right there.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Wow.
Well, I told my, it was so funny because, like I said, it's my wife's favorite movie, so I've seen it probably
Uh,
about 6 times.
uh,
And one, I think probably the fifth we were watching it, and I'm like, they're talking about gun control, right? And she goes, and she just looks over at me and is like, just enjoy the movie. And I'm like, this is the reaction to I think we should have to Beauty and the Beast is let's just enjoy the movie. You know,
exactly.
I mean, it's not
So
like what is it, Miss Sloane? Where it's overtly let's hate on every value that America
right.
holds.
Yeah. So I did go see the movie last weekend,
Oh,
and I'm sitting there in my chair, like, I'm waiting for that gay scene. I'm waiting for the gay scene. I'm waiting for the gay scene. I get to the end, and I'm like, okay. There was actually a couple of jokes that guess were meant to imply some sort of gay innuendo. I found them hilarious. I'm somebody who watches Sherlock. There's so much more gay innuendo in that show than I mean, and like I said, there were some Christian friends of mine who adore Sherlock, the TV
mm,
show, but all of a sudden they felt like they needed to boycott Beauty and the Beast over the gay scene. There was so much more gay innuendo in Sherlock, which is a Christian fan favorite.
right. Oh yeah, I love Sherlock.
Yeah, yeah, and there was literally nothing. I mean, LeFou, the character that was supposed to be gay, ends up with a woman at the end of the movie. So I'm like sitting there cheering. I've been vindicated. I've been.
Well, I know, and it was so funny because I even was watching because Steven Crowder reviewed the movie, and
Mhm.
he was saying that all the gay metaphor was actually like the '90s gay best friend, and so he's like,
Exactly.
really, a gay person should be offended by what's in the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, exactly. It was stereotypical at most, but like kids are not going to pick up on that.
Right,
Most
right.
adults would not pick up on that if somebody hadn't said something.
Oh my
So,
gosh, it's just you know, I was thinking the same. Whenever you wrote your piece, I was
mm,
like, yeah, oh yeah, she's exactly right. This is what's gonna. And there was even a pastor that I follow, and he was like, and he was saying, don't get ahead of ourselves. He goes, for all we know, this is propaganda that Disney is putting out to trap
exactly.
us, and
Mm.
he was probably right.
I think it was 100% correct. It was a media ploy to get. It ended up being. It's one of the top grossing films.
Right.
I can't remember what the stats
Yeah,
were. It
it
was
beat
it's
Logan, I
made a
think.
huge amount of money, and the reason why they had this controversy come out is to build up, the bring the eyes to the movie. I want to go and see this gay scene that they put in here to stick it to the Christians. I mean, whatever. But like, there was no gay scene. It was all,
Oh man.
a marketing ploy to get people to either watch the movie or stir up controversy. They really wanted to go all out with how much publicity they got for their movie, and they did.
And, and speaking of blowing up, and I know this is kind of a shift, but what do you think about the Blaze suspending Tommy Lauren? Now, if they suspended her because she's pro-choice, I think that was the wrong decisions. But there have been rumors that she was actually suspended because she thought that Beck should have backed her up, and she threw like a hissy fit about it. And of course, that's some unnamed sources, and I know we're not supposed to use those. But
Right.
if she got suspended for that reason, I understand that. What's your take on that?
I think the PR for this whole debacle has been atrocious. I
Yeah.
think this is largely the Blaze's fault. If she was fired for reasons other than her being pro-choice or having opinions differing from the company mainline, then that needs to be made public, because right now it's making the Blaze look bad. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
can't handle another opinion in our company. I know for myself in my company, my boss would not fire me if I had an opinion that differed from him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt about Tommy. I think that the anvil has come down far too hard on her.
Mm-hmm.
It's the company's responsibility. If they were having problems with her before in this area, they should not have allowed her to have that view appearance. They should
Yeah.
have contractually barred her from that appearance. They should have dialed her back. She doesn't need to have this much exposure, whatever. It doesn't need to be done out in the open like this, where Tommy is the bad guy, and now you're gonna. I mean, she was a real asset to their company. Whether I didn't like her personally. I didn't watch her
No.
show,
I liked her
but
better when she was on One America.
yeah, I never heard of her until she was on the Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that they're being far too harsh on her for having an opinion that differs. I don't think that they're going to change her mind with this reaction, which would be my concern. I would rather say, have a more reasonable response to her, and then maybe in 10 years she comes back and says, well, you know what, these pro-life people actually were reasonable with me, and maybe I can actually come over to their side.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of my approach rather than, you heretic! We can't have you saying these things. I mean,
well,
just to give some credence to the other side, I did have a good argument made to me that she was damaging their company by outwardly kind of attacking, kind of not attacking their audience by saying that the pro-life position is hypocritical. I still don't think that that's far enough.
well,
That to
the
request
Blaze had a pro-choice anchor before.
mm-hmm.
Amy Holmes, who did, I think it was called The Real Story, or I can't remember the name of the program, but she was like very actively pro-choice, and so it's not. She would Tommy certainly wouldn't have been their first pro-choice pick, but it's like I think it was. Several people have pointed out that Tommy previously, her tweets, just like last time, that's what got her into trouble. Before she called abortion murder, and then she goes on The View and say, if you're a constitutional, you're hypocritical for being pro-life. And I think that's what really got her. If she had just been consistently pro-choice, and then also not say, hey, if you're a conservative, you're hypocritical. I think that's what really made me upset, because I like Kristen Powers. I think she's a phenomenal commentator, and she's pro-choice. So I don't. I think that too had something to do with it. Was before she was saying I'm pro-life, now she's saying I'm pro-choice.
Yeah,
But
I do think
again,
that she
that's not about the suspension, of course.
right, yeah. She did have a problem with the messaging, because there was a Daily Caller interview back in October where she said, I'm pro-choice. And there was an interview with Jamie Weinstein where she said, I'm pro-choice. And then back in December, she's doing videos talking about how this abortion is murder, or I think she was referring to Lena Dunham, I believe, in one of her videos, talking about how despicable it was that she was taking this position. I don't think she ever came out and said, I'm pro-life.
Right.
So I don't think she flip-flopped in that manner, but she did make overtures to being pro-life in some instances. So that, I guess, that is an issue when you're not consistent. But I still think that it's the fault of the company for not calling her out before and having it be taking her side. You know what, we need to have you be consistent on this, or we're going to have to take action, rather than it becoming national news story. We got to pull her out. The Blaze is burning down over this. It's just completely. It's all a PR disaster.
Yeah, it is. And I studied marketing in college, and they broke every single rule that you could in regards to this.
Yes.
I mean, they even threw the 4Ps out the window with
Yeah.
this. I mean, you're right. It was a total disaster. But it just goes, like places like the Blaze or CRTV and Newsmax and all these conservative streaming services. You just got to know who you're putting on, because Tommy, even before she was on the Blaze, like I said, she was on One America News, and she was a firebrand back then. I mean, it's not like it's not like they didn't know she was a firebrand that had these crazy opinions. I mean, people, but again, it's like you said, it just all goes down to how terrible they messaged this thing.
Right. Exactly.
It makes no sense. But anyway, shifting gears again. So, I've noticed that there's still kind of like a schism in conservatism, because we have, like me, I'm of the opinion that the Ryan care or GOP care or Rhino care, whatever you want to call it, I didn't think it went far enough. I think I was a repeal and I'm still a repeal and replace guy, but I was also thinking, well, if I trusted Ryan when he said this is a 3-phase plan, and I know other conservatives didn't, but I'm the vote yesterday, they just told Trump, hey, we're not going to do it. To me, that was bad messaging, because before they were saying we're going to have the vote whether it happens or not, and then they're like, oh, we're delaying the vote.
Mm.
What do you think they could have done differently? Because now they look bad to liberals and
Mm.
progressives and to their base. Because it's like
Mm.
because Trump was supposed to be this good deal maker, and now he can't make a deal.
Mm.
What do you think? What do you think they could have done differently, maybe to either push AHCA forward, or had worked more with the Freedom Caucus to develop a better bill? What do you think?
I would have preferred it better. I want a clean repeal is what I
Right.
want. I think that again it's another PR disaster. I mean that seems to be a running theme within Republican circles or conservative circles, whatever you want to call it, circles on the right.
Right.
Our PR is terrible. The PR from the Blaze on the Tommy issue is terrible. The PR from the Trump administration is abhorrent. I mean, it's a disaster. And when you've got the signature argument from Nancy Pelosi, the headline was, we have to pass this bill in order to find out what's in it. And then you've got Republicans out there basically paraphrasing that about the Trump care bill.
Yeah.
Could you not be more stupid? That's the thing that people hated the most, and the reason why you guys have the House and the Senate and the presidency and most of the governors.
Yeah.
So what I would have liked for them to do is do a clean repeal, and then if they want to replace it, I don't support replace at all. Actually, I want it to be a complete get government out of the system so that we can have free markets take over. I mean, there's going to be some sort of a phase in between where there's going to be people not on Obamacare anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. But the idea that people are going to be dying in the streets if we don't have something to replace it's complete nonsense. Nobody dies in the street in the United States. I'm sorry. How many people have you seen dying in the streets of LA? I mean, unless they chose to be there, you're not dying in the streets.
Well, and also too, people weren't dying on the streets when we had what we had before Obamacare.
Right.
So
exactly.
why would you just assume that if Obamacare disappears, there would be people dying on the streets? And I'm not saying what we had before was perfect. It definitely wasn't. But I agree. Yeah, free markets, and I think it's because I really think they have people who, because if you look at some of the younger congressmen, GOP congressmen who are coming up, who are principled conservatives, when they're on TV, they look spectacular. But they make the older guys who don't know about, I guess you could say millennials or Generation Y or whatever, they make them look bad because the younger congressmen are better at messaging. But they never put these guys forward because they're like, oh my gosh, they're really principled conservatives.
We can't have that.
Like Senator Ben Sass is a perfect example, and I know he's not I think he's actually a baby boomer, but he's a younger baby boomer,
right?
And like when he gets interviewed, it's spectacular, and I think I saw him trolling Ben Shapiro one day, and it's just like he's a master at social media. I mean, how do you think Republicans can? Because now we're everywhere. Before we were just on blogs, but now we have like the Daily Wire and the Daily Caller and all these, the Reagan Battalion. We have all these great outlets. How can we get our leaders to get better at this messaging?
I think that we've definitely taken steps in the right direction with that. Back in 2010 was when my dad and I were sitting around. My dad's also a pastor, by the way.
Oh, cool.
My dad and I were sitting around going, the Democrats have this massive media machine. Obama was like the social media king. This is 7-8 years ago. And we were sitting there going, why doesn't, for example, Rush Limbaugh have his Twitter site going? Why doesn't so-and-so, I mean, we were big talk radio listeners at the time, or at least I was, he still is, but we were looking at these people and going, why don't they have their social media going? Why don't the congressmen have their social media going? And now they do. Now you've got Ted Cruz trolling, I forget the name of the place, Deadspin. He's trolling Deadspin, and he's doing a fantastic job, and he's making young people go, I'm going to at least follow him because that's funny. Young people are generally, if they see something that they think is funny or that they think is attractive, they'll go to it before they realize, oh, they're conservatives. And then they'll either go, if they're indoctrinated, they'll be like, oh, I can't look at that person. Or they'll be like, oh, that person made me laugh, I'm going to watch it. Or Stephen Crowder is a fantastic example. Yeah. Use the humor because that's very attractive to the young people. They want to laugh. So you go to Crowder and you get the conservative politics and you get the humor. And I think that that's, using humor is a very powerful tool. So I would recommend that politicians use the humor. It works.
And yeah, I think so too. And that's another thing that I think Ben Sass has down really well is, I don't think I want to be clear, I don't think he's a perfect senator, but definitely if I lived
Right.
in his home state, I would vote for him.
Mm.
I live in California where they have the election rigged. So,
Mm.
and you do too, I know they
Yeah.
had this when I remember when I first read up is, and this is another thing I want to talk about, how California has it now is all the candidates are in one primary. So the
Mm.
top two, even if it's two Democrats, run
Right.
against each other. And that's what happened in 2016 with
Yep.
the Senate. And
Mm.
so there is no way this is legal because, for one thing, political parties, which I know we're technically a two-party system, but they're private entities. And so
Mm.
if I'm a Republican, I should have the right to vote for a Republican, but the Democrats have basically stripped that all away. And,
Right.
and I remember how, and this is another way the Democrats are better at messaging, they messaged it like it was Louisiana. Well, this isn't like
Mm.
Louisiana. In Louisiana, everyone is on the ballot. So if there's 10
Mm.
people in the primary, all 10 of those people are on the ballot. As
Mm.
opposed to California where it's just the top two, whoever it is.
Right.
Uh, I guess my question for that is, do you know of any way conservatives are challenging this law in California? How are they? Because now, I think 2016 was the first time two Democrats were on the ballot, and people are realizing, oh my gosh, this is not cool. I can only vote
Mm.
for Democrats.
Right.
Do you know of any like legislation or lawsuits or anything that where this is being challenged? And if not, how do you think we can challenge the California system with regards to this?
Yeah, I'm really pessimistic about California. I have not heard of any kind of pushback
Mm-hmm.
to that. I mean, I think it's a sham that we should have Kamala Harris and I forget her name, Sanchez. Forgot her first name, but I voted for Sanchez because Kamala Harris, was in league with the Planned Parenthood, the selling the baby body parts,
Right.
and
I left
but
it
the
blank.
problem. Oh my gosh, she was covering up for them as
Yeah.
the Attorney General. She was aiding and abetting them basically, and now she's our senator because we're California. We think that's just dandy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really unfortunate that we only have the two options. What Democrat or Democrat light? I guess. I mean, she wasn't even Democrat light. They're both basically socialists to me. But
Right.
I would definitely be on board with legislation to change that. I just, like I said, I'm very pessimistic about anything good even coming from that because Democrats don't want that kind of legislation to be passed, and I believe it's a Democrat supermajority in the California Senate. I
Yeah,
think.
they have a super majority in the Senate, but I don't think they have a majority, but I don't think it's a super in the House. But that doesn't
Yeah,
really matter.
yeah, yeah. It's really unfortunate. Fortunately, here's the good news for me. I live in Tom McClintock's district, so it's like the last conservative district in the entire state. So I did get to go to his town hall event, and I was one of the only people there speaking in his favor because it was during the time when you had all those the paid protesters coming, and
Right.
they run around and they tell me, "No, we're not paid, but here's this card for the organization that paid me to be here." I mean, it was so hypocritical.
Let me
So
guess.
there.
OFA, right?
No, it was Indivisible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote about them
It was
too.
George Soros, Indivisible, and they're like, George Soros didn't fund me, but here's his card.
Yeah.
It was quite hilarious. I wish I had that on video. But yeah, it's a real disaster in California. The way the town hall event was set up was just people screaming and shouting. And even I mean, nobody could make themselves heard. People would come up and try and speak in favor of Tom McClintock, and they'd be shouted down, they'd be screamed at. It's just children screaming. There's no, attempt at even rational discussion or Democrats saying, here's our ideas and here's why we want them. And then somebody else saying, well, what about this? What about this? it was all just screaming. Everybody had the same signs conveniently because they weren't funded by any organization of any kind.
Right.
But yeah, it's the state of California is a complete disaster.
And hopefully, though, with stuff like this happening, will start to wake up because I know Inland Empire, where my wife is from, Fontana
Mm,
area,
mm,
the liberals there actually call it Fontucky because it's like one of the few conservative areas. Like you go into the Barnes and Noble there, and they actually have Guns and Ammo, and National Review, and the Weekly Standard.
mm.
So it's hopefully though we'll see with all these disasters that's coming, we'll have these bastions of conservatism start to grow a little bit. I'm not, like you said,
Mm.
it could take a long time, but
Right.
maybe like when the Reagans came in California,
Mm.
maybe we'll have a similar movement. So, all right, so got one last round of questions. What are some movies? And I'm shifting gears a little bit because my fans out there, they love to hear my guests' take on films and television shows. What are some movies you're excited about that are coming out this year?
Definitely Wonder Woman. I've not been happy with a lot of movies that DC has come out with,
Yeah, me
but
either.
I really have high hopes for Wonder Woman because Gal Gadot is just fantastic, and I think they got a good guy to play Steve Trevor. Definitely, the next Star Wars movie, Star Wars 8, is going to be huge because of Carrie Fisher. That's probably going to be their biggest Star Wars grosser ever. I mean, I'm sure it will be, but especially for that, the Carrie Fisher thing alone is going to
Mm-hmm.
drive people to go see that movie. Um, I don't really have high hopes for Spider-Man, and I don't have high hopes at all for Thor Ragnarok. I think that the Thor franchise is basically dead at this point.
Well,
Um,
they're saying this is his last movie. He'll be in
yeah,
Infinity War Part 1 and 2, but then I think they're passing on the hammer.
yeah. I think that Tom Hiddleston is the one who carried those movies. I don't think he can save this last one though. He's the only reason why Thor: The Dark World had any kind of you know box office profit. I
I
think
actually
people
like
went to
Thor Dark
Loki.
World, but I do think from the first one it was kind of a
I said
fall.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, and especially Malefic the Accursed. He's such a big character in the Thor comics, and they just kind of wasted his appearance. I do agree
Right.
with that.
Exactly. They
It's kind
didn't.
of like the
I mean,
Riddler in Batman Forever.
yeah. My sister was showing me pictures, or maybe it was my brother. One of them was showing me pictures of what Malekith is supposed to look like,
Hmm.
and I'm like, that's actually scary. I mean, he wasn't scary in the Dark World. I mean, I wasn't intimidated by him. I didn't. There was no personality. One of the fantastic things about Loki as being the villain in the Avengers
Hmm.
is you had like you. I saw the Avengers before I saw Thor, so I didn't know this character from anybody,
Okay.
and you could actually make a connection. You had an emotional connection. You were scared of Loki when you
Right.
watched the Avengers the first time. Well, with Malekith, I'm like, yeah, he's just another throwaway villain. He's never going to come back. And there's no personality. There's no chemistry with him and anybody. I mean, it was like, I thought it was a total waste of a potentially scary character.
Well, and
So,
that's how I felt about Dawn of Justice, which should have been titled World's Finest. They,
mhm,
yeah, they. I don't know if you realize this because I didn't realize it until someone pointed it out to me. But the Russian villain that is kind of Lex Luthor's right hand man, that's
uh,
supposed to be the KG Beast,
uh,
and the guy that Batman shoots his fire tank at the end, that's
uh,
supposed to be the KG Beast. And I'm like, they didn't
uh,
even reference him as they could have at least called him, his code name could have been the Beast. They wouldn't have had to say
uh,
KGB, or the
right,
boat could have been called, instead of the white Portuguese, they could have called it the Beast. And it's just
right,
like
yeah,
they that was my big complaint about Dawn of Justice is they wasted really great characters on these portrayals.
mhm.
And but
I have to admit, I walked out of that
oh,
movie.
you did? I didn't walk
I,
out. I
yeah,
I'm not a fan of the Frank Miller verse Batman. I'm a
mhm,
Neil Adams guy.
yeah,
The '90s Batman when
right.
he had just because he came
Oh,
out of
yeah,
the '80s where he was super dark, and then the '90s
mhm,
kind of evened him out a little bit.
right,
That
exactly.
yeah, that's my Batman. So
Yeah, that's
um,
the best portrayal I think of Batman. I mean, I really enjoyed his name escapes me, but the really attractive guy that played him in the Dark Knight
Oh,
series.
yeah, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Christian Bale.
I like those movies.
I,
I didn't like how the
I
series concluded, but I did enjoy those
right.
movies.
Yeah, I enjoyed those movies. I thought he was a decent Bruce Wayne. I mean, I think that there wasn't enough differentiation between him and Batman. I
Mm-hmm.
think the personalities merged a little too much. But I enjoyed those movies. Those were great Batman movies. I haven't liked. I mean, I abhor Ben Affleck on every count, and to see him as Batman, it's an offense to Batman. It really,
See, this is
it's
one thing.
terrible.
I know Ben Shapiro is a fan of Ben Affleck.
Mhm.
So I saw he tweeted it out about it. I think right after the movie came out, he's like, "This is the best Batman movie I've ever seen," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?"
I know. Oh my gosh. I see. I didn't see the movie in the theater. My brother was watching it on his big TV, and I was sitting in there, and I think it was maybe 20 minutes. I think this is how the story went. Anyway,
Mhm.
about 20 minutes in, I was like, I'm leaving. Goodbye. I can't see. I can't watch this anymore.
Oh
Oh,
man,
I
well,
thought like the Lex Luthor. I thought was
oh
terrible.
yeah,
I
Bryan
mean,
Cranston should have been Lex Luthor.
yeah, it was just really bad. Lex Luthor should not have hair in any version. It just doesn't work.
Hmm. Well, people are saying I don't know if you there are rumors coming down that I've read on comic book places that
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers basically told the people who are in charge of the DC movies, the shared universe. They basically told them if Justice League and Wonder Woman do poorly, we're stepping
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
They laid down the law.
Yeah,
So we'll see
seems
though.
like it's a little bit
Maybe they'll
late
be
though.
maybe these movies will be better than we hope. So you never know.
Yeah, I saw the new trailer for Justice League, and I
Don't
wasn't
tell me
really
I'm going to do a
impressed.
trailer reaction later.
Okay, okay, I will tell you. But Wonder Woman, I still have high hopes for Wonder Woman because I think the tone of the movie is going to be much different
Mhm.
than with the Man of Steel. Oh my gosh, Man of Steel was so bad.
Yeah.
Or Batman versus Superman. I think it's just I think that the Wonder Woman has the potential to be a little bit lighter. And
Right.
I think that's why it has the potential to do better than the others because the other ones are like dark, 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 dark. There's no, it's like one note the entire way through. I thought the Wonder Woman was the only reason worth watching Batman versus Superman, and all you have to do is type in the clips on YouTube. You don't have to actually watch the movie to find her. So,
That's how it is. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Before I say
mhm.
goodbye, I'm going to give a shout out. Guys, my new book just came out. Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. It's a supernatural thriller about angels and demons. Cacophony. It's completely fictional. Has no basis in theology. It's just a completely fictional book. So just so I don't want any of you shat caters to come after me as well. So pick it up on Amazon.com, and you can find Kelly at WarriorWoman91 on Twitter. And that's also the name of her YouTube channel. She has some pretty interesting videos on there. Search that right after. We'll have a link in the description. And Kelly, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
You have a fantastic weekend.
All right, you too.
Bye.